It all depends on how we look at things, and not how they are in themselves. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. The world will ask you who you are, and if you don't know, the world will tell you. We are not what happened to us, we are what we wish to become. Do not compare, do not measure. No other way is like yours. All other ways deceive and tempt you. You must fulfill the way that is in you. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. Thinking is difficult, that's why most people judge. The reason for evil in the world is that people are not able to tell their stories. To ask the right question is already half the solution of a problem. Wisdom accepts that all things have two sides. The difference between a good life and a bad life is how well you walk through the fire. We don't so much solve our problems as we outgrow them. We add capacities and experiences that eventually make us bigger than the problems. I cannot prove to you that God exists, but my work has proved empirically that the pattern of God exists in every man and that this pattern in the individual has at its disposal the greatest transforming energies of which life is capable. Find this pattern in your own individual self and life is transformed. We meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life. We cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. If a man knows more than others, he becomes lonely. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see. The most dangerous things in the world are immense accumulations of human beings who are manipulated by only a few heads. Where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, their love is lacking. The one is the shadow of the other. The brighter the light, the darker the shadow. God enters through the wound. We don't get wounded alone and we don't heal alone. Solitude is for me a fount of healing which makes my life worth living. Talking is often a torment for me, and I need many days of silence to recover from the futility of words. In every adult there lurks a child, an eternal child, something that is always becoming, is never completed, and calls for unceasing care, attention, and education. That is the part of the personality which wants to develop and become whole. A man likes to believe that he is the master of his soul. But as long as he is unable to control his moods and emotions, or to be conscious of the myriad secret ways in which unconscious factors insinuate themselves into his arrangements and decisions, he is certainly not his own master. We don't really heal anything, we simply let it go. Life calls not for perfection, but for completeness. Normality is a fine ideal for those who have no imagination. The most important question anyone can ask is, what myth am I living? Conflict exists strictly as an opportunity to raise our consciousness. No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. You must go in quest of yourself, and you will find yourself again only in the simple and forgotten things. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Embrace your grief, for there, your soul will grow. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. Intuition is one of the 4 basic psychological functions along with thinking, feeling, and sensing. When goals go, meaning goes. When meaning goes, purpose goes. When purpose goes, life goes dead on our hands. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Nothing is possible without love, for love puts one in a mood to risk everything. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams; who looks inside, awakes. One finds one's destiny on the path one takes to avoid it. Loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself, or from holding certain views which others find inadmissible. Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness, and the word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. It is far better to take things as they come along with patience and equanimity. Nothing affects the life of a child so much as the unlived life of its parent. Where love stops, power begins, and violence, and terror. The whole point of Jesus' life was not that we should become exactly like him, but that we should become ourselves in the same way he became himself. Jesus was not the great exception but the great example. If our religion is based on salvation, our chief emotions will be fear and trembling. If our religion is based on wonder, our chief emotion will be gratitude. The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. We discover ourselves through others. Where wisdom reigns, there is no conflict between thinking and feeling. Dawn is born at midnight. One is always in the dark about one's own personality. One needs others to get to know oneself. In each of us is another whom we do not know. He speaks to us in dreams and tells us how differently he sees us from the way we see ourselves. The healthy man does not torture others, generally it is the tortured who turn into torturers. The ability to ask questions is the greatest resource in learning the truth. A man's hatred is always concentrated upon that which makes him conscious of his bad qualities. Myth is more individual and expresses life more precisely than does science. All fanaticism is repressed doubt. I've realized that somebody who's tired and needs a rest, and goes on working all the same is a fool. Enchantment is the oldest form of medicine. The man who promises everything is sure to fulfill nothing, and everyone who promises too much is in danger of using evil means in order to carry out his promises, and is already on the road to perdition. When you are up against a wall, put down roots like a tree, until clarity comes from deeper sources to see over that wall and grow. Enlightenment doesn't occur from sitting around visualizing images of light, but from integrating the darker aspects of the self into the conscious personality. Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. The descent into the depths always seems to precede the ascent. The best political, social, and spiritual work we can do is to withdraw the projection of our shadow onto others. The greater the contrast, the greater the potential. Great energy only comes from a correspondingly great tension of opposites. Man needs difficulties, they are necessary for health. I must also have a dark side if I am to be whole. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls.